शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। Hare Krishna, we're discussing Canto 4, Chapter 8, entitled Dhruva Maharaj Leaves Home. We are on the section of Narad Muni giving instructions to Dhruva Maharaj about the process and the practices of devotional service in Madhuvan. So we are on text number 54. We already discussed the verse yesterday. We will once again read the translation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is the 12-syllable mantra for worshipping Lord Krishna. One should install the physical forms of the Lord, and with the chanting of the mantra, one should offer flowers and fruits and other varieties of foodstuffs exactly according to the rules and regulations prescribed by authorities. But this should be done in consideration of place, time, and attendant conveniences and inconveniences. Desha Kala Vibhagavat. So we already had an elaborate discussion on this, on principles and details and how things can be adjusted, not adjusted. We already had a detailed discussion on that. We will go through a part of this purport where Srila Prabhupada is focusing on this theme of adjusting according to time, place, and circumstances. In the second paragraph of the purport, Prabhupada writes, the prescribed rules as stated here by Narad Muni are that one should accept the mantra through a bona fide spiritual master and hear the mantra in the right ear. And then he speaks about how similarly, when we make a form of the Lord, whether of wood or stone or metal or jewels or paint or even a form within the mind, it is a bona fide spiritual transcendental form of the Lord. Going to the next paragraph, the method of worship, chanting the mantra and preparing the forms of the Lord is not stereotyped, nor is it exactly the same everywhere. It is specifically mentioned in this verse that one should take consideration of the time, place, and available conveniences. Our Krishna consciousness movement is going on throughout the entire world, and we also install deities in different centers. Sometimes our Indian friends, puffed up with concocted notions, criticize, this has not been done, that has not been done. But they forget this instruction of Narad Muni to one of the greatest Vaishnavas, Dhruva Maharaj. One has to consider the particular time, country, and conveniences. What is convenient in India may not be convenient in the Western countries. Those who are not actually in the line of the acharyas or who personally have no knowledge of how to act in the role of acharya unnecessarily criticize the activities of the ISKCON movement in countries outside of India. The fact is that such critics cannot do anything personally to spread Krishna consciousness. If someone does go and preach, taking all risks and allowing all considerations for time and place, it might be that there are changes in the manner of worship, but that is not at all faulty according to Shastra. Srimad Veer Raghavacharya, an acharya in the disciplic succession of the Ramanuja Sampradaya, has remarked in his commentary that Chandalas or conditioned souls who are born in lower than Shudra families can also be initiated according to circumstances. The formalities may be slightly changed here and there to make them Vaishnavas. Further down in the next paragraph, Prabhupada writes, the principle that only Indians and Hindus should be brought into the Vaishnav cult is a mistaken idea. There should be propaganda to bring everyone to the Vaishnava cult. The Krishna consciousness movement is meant for this purpose. There is no bar to propagating the Krishna consciousness movement, even amongst people who are born in Chandala, Mlecha, or Yavana families. And then he quotes Sanatana Goswami's famous example, as bell metal can turn to gold when mixed with mercury in a chemical process, so by the bona fide Diksha or initiation method, anyone can become a Vaishnav. One should take initiation from a bona fide spiritual master coming in the disciplic succession, who is authorized by his predecessor spiritual master. This is called Diksha Vidhan. Lord Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, Vyapashritya, one should accept a spiritual master. By this process, the entire world can be converted to Krishna consciousness. So all these are very, very beautiful points depicting Srila Prabhupada's mood and mission. So Srila Prabhupada's mood to preach throughout the entire world and turn everyone into Vaishnava, Srila Prabhupada's mode of compassion, and also Srila Prabhupada's mission to make necessary adjustments for the sake of preaching according to time, place, and circumstances. So let's go ahead with the next verse. Somebody can
Hare
read the
Krishna.
translation.
Prabhuji, I have a question
55.
related to this text.
We will take questions at the end of the chapter, please.
Okay.
Okay. Please read the translation, text 55. Okay, in the meantime, let's recite. Salile Shuchi Birmalyer Vanyer Mula Faladhibi Shashtan Kuram Shukesh Charchet Tulasya Priya Prabhum.
One should worship the Lord by offering pure water, pure flower garlands, fruits, flowers, and vegetables, which are available in the forest, or by collecting newly grown grasses, small birds of flowers, or even the skin of trees. And if possible, by offering tulsi leaves, which are very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yes. So Narad Muni is telling how the flower garlands, fruits, flowers, vegetables, whatever is available can be offered. And there must be offering of tulsi, tulasya priyaya prabhum. Tulsi is very priya, very dear to the Lord. And so therefore every offering should be made with tulsi. And Srila Prabhupada writes again here that it is specifically mentioned herein that tulsi leaves are very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Devotees should take particular care to have tulsi leaves in every temple and center of worship. In the Western countries, while engaged in propagating the Krishna conscious movement, we were brought great unhappiness because we could not find tulsi leaves. We are very much obliged, therefore, to our disciple Srimati Govindasi because she has taken much care to grow tulsi plants from seeds, and she has been successful by the grace of Krishna. Now tulsi plants are growing in almost every center of our movements. So again, Srila Prabhupada did make that adjustment at the beginning of the movement, but then it was Srila Prabhupada's desire, and by the grace of Krishna, then Govindasi was successful in growing tulsi, and now tulsi is everywhere, even in the Western countries. And tulsi leaves are very important in the method of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Prabhupada is commenting on the word salilai, by water. And again, Srila Prabhupada talks about an adjustment in the Western countries. There is no river Yamuna or Ganga. Water from such sacred rivers is not available. Does this mean that the Archa worship should, for that reason, be stopped? No. Salilai refers to any water, whatever is available, but it must be very clear and collected purely. So that's what is important. And Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, one should not offer Lord Vasudev anything other than what is prescribed herein by the great authority Narad Muni. And that, of course, in the previous sentence, Prabhupada is quoting Bhagavad Gita, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. One cannot offer to the deity according to one's whims. Since these fruits and vegetables are available anywhere in the universe, we should observe this small point very attentively. Okay, so whatever is offered should be according to the prescribed rules and regulations as prescribed by the Lord and prescribed by the Acharyas. And yes, and that's what will please Krishna. Prabhupada says one should observe the small point very attentively. Please continue reading. Translation text 56.
It is possible to worship a form of the Lord made of physical elements such as earth, water, pulp, wood, and metal. In the forest, one can make a form with no more than earth and water and worship him according to the above principle. A devotee who has full control over himself should be very sober and peaceful and must be satisfied simply with eating whatever fruits and vegetables are available in the forest.
Yes. So again, Narad Muni made the adjustment for Dhruva Maharaj. He's in the forest, so make a deity made up of earth, and then whatever is available in the forest, one can simply offer those fruits and vegetables and be satisfied. So here it is mentioned Mita Vanya Bhuk. So one of the qualities of the Vaishnava is Mita Bhuk, to be satisfied with whatever is available, eat that much and be satisfied. So Narad Muni is telling the same principle to Dhruva Maharaj. Prabhupada begins the purport by saying it is essential for a devotee to worship the form of the Lord and not only meditate upon the form of the Lord within his mind with the chanting of the mantra given by the spiritual master. The worship of the form must be present. Okay, and then he speaks about the impersonalists, that they try to worship something impersonal. But how is it possible to meditate on something which does not have a form, which is impersonal? Further down the purport, he should not be anxious to have very palatable dishes. Of course, wherever it is possible, one should offer the deities the best foodstuffs prepared within the category of fruits and vegetables, cooked or uncooked. The important factor is that the devotee should be regulated, mithabuk. That is one of the good qualifications of a devotee. He should not hanker to satisfy the tongue with a particular type of foodstuff. He should be satisfied to eat whatever prasad is available by the grace of the Lord. Okay. So by the grace of the Lord, of course, so many wonderful palatable dishes are available. Sometimes it could be simple foods now. Sometimes it could be dosas and idlis and so many other things. So many things are available by the grace of the Lord, and it is possible to be satisfied with whatever is available. Otherwise, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Jivira Lalsa Yotitidai Shishno Darparayan Krishna Nahi Pai. Okay, so be satisfied with whatever is available in the ashram and or in the homes, wherever, and not hanker to satisfy the tongue by going here and there to various restaurants. Okay. Who was saying this? Okay, text 57. Please read the translation.
My dear Dhruva, besides worshipping the deity and chanting the mantra 3 times a day, you should meditate upon the transcendental activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in its different incarnations, as exhibited by his supreme will and personal potencies.
Yes, so tadhyayet dhridayan gamam. So dhyan, so meditation on the form of the Lord, that's also an important anga of bhakti. So here Narad Muni is telling Dhruva to worship the Lord, chant the holy names, chant the mantra 3 times a day, and meditate upon the transcendental activities and the transcendental form of the Lord. As Prabhupada writes, Dhruva Maharaj is advised not only to meditate on the form of the Lord, but to think of his transcendental pastimes in his different incarnations. Okay, so therefore, the Bhagavatam is filled with so many pastimes of different incarnations and pastimes of the devotees of the Lord. So reading and hearing about these different pastimes is also an important anga of bhakti. Mayavadi philosophers take the incarnation of the Lord to be in the same category as the ordinary living entity. This is a great mistake. Okay, so the Lord appears by Svecha, Svecha Avtara Chariter. So he comes by on his own accord, by his internal potency. What's the verse from the Bhagavad Gita? Which say, what is the verse? Full verse? Yes, Ajopi san avyatma, bhutanam ishvaropi san, prakritim swam adhishtaya sambhavami atmamaya. So the Lord comes out of his own free will by his internal potency. So therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has condemned the Mayavadis as offensive to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because of their thinking that the Lord and the conditioned living entities are one and the same. Narad advises Dhruva to meditate on this is the last paragraph of the purport. Narad advises Dhruva to meditate on the pastimes of the Lord, which is as good as the meditation of concentrating one's mind on the form of the Lord. Okay, and so along with the meditation, then the chanting of the holy names. So Srila Prabhupada, of course, has given us a complete package where we have the chanting of the holy names, we have the pastimes of the Lord. Everything is there within Srila Prabhupada's program. If we simply follow that, then everything becomes complete. Text 58. Paricharya bhagavato yavatya purva sevitaha tamantra hridayeneva prayunjan mantra murtaye.
One should follow in the footsteps of previous devotees regarding how to worship the Supreme Lord with the prescribed paraphernalia. Or one should offer worship within the heart by reciting the mantras to the personality of Godhead, who is non-different from the mantra.
Yes. So the important point here is that one should follow Purva Sevitaha. So one should follow the previous acharyas, an important anga of bhakti, which Srila Prabhupada very often emphasized. Sadhu Marganu Gamanam, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, is a very important anga of bhakti. And so here Narad Muni is also advising Dhruva the same thing. Okay. And here Srila Prabhupada is speaking about dhyanam and quoting the story which he quotes in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu about the Brahmana of Pratishtanpur who did not have ingredients to cook sweet rice, and therefore he was cooking in the mind. And then we know he wanted to check whether the sweet rice is hot. He put his finger in the sweet rice, and what happened? Yes, the finger got burnt. Okay. So of course, if we have the ingredients to cook, we actually should be cooking and not cooking in the minds. So, but Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, such are the liberal and potent facilities in the process of devotional service. That is the potency of bhakti, because Krishna is ready to accept the bhava grahi janardana. So the Lord is ready to accept the bhava. So who's the other example of somebody who was performing devotional service in the mind and the Lord accepted? Yes, Narsimhan Brahmachari. What was he doing? Yes, he was constructing the path. Where? Which path?
Which path?
Yes, from? Yes, from Jagannath Puri, he was going to go to Vrindavan. Then what happened? Which was that place? Yes, Kanai Nakshala. And then what happened? And that only happens. Yes, that's right. And so he was making this beautiful roads with precious stones and gems and so many things he was, and the Lord accepted. Okay. Okay, fine. 5960, please read the translation.
Anyone who thus engages in the devotional service of the Lord seriously and sincerely with his mind, words, and body, and who is fixed in the activities of the prescribed devotional methods, is blessed by the Lord according to his desire. If a devotee desires material religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, or liberation from the material world, he is awarded these results.
Yes, so Narad Muni is concluding his instructions to Dhruva Maharaj, and he's saying that anyone who thus engages in the devotional service, evam kayena manasa vachasacha manogatam. Okay, so one who engages with body, mind, words, he engages in paricharyamano bhagavan, bhaktimat paricharya. So if one performs this devotional service, pumsan amayinam, Srila Prabhupada translates as sincerely and seriously. So Prabhupada has used these two words abundantly within his purports. And so if one performs devotional service in this way, thinking about the shreyo dishatya abhimatam. So one is thinking about the shreya, one is thinking about the ultimate goal which he wants to achieve. And then according to that ultimate goal, then the Lord reciprocates accordingly. So Prabhupada writes, devotional service is so potent that one who renders devotional service can receive whatever he likes as a benediction from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the last verse of Narad Muni's instructions, the next one, Viraktas chendriya ratau bhakti yogena bhuyasa tam nirantara bhavena bhajetadha vimuktaye.
If one is very serious about liberation, he must stick to the process of transcendental loving service, engaging 24 hours a day in the highest stage of ecstasy, and he must certainly be aloof from all activities of sense gratification.
Yes, so in this way, if one is very serious about liberation, and so one wants to achieve that, then he must stick to the process of devotion. Bhakti yogena bhuyasa Tam nirantara bhavena, nirantar, it has to be nirantar, 24 hours, not for just a few hours or few minutes, but it has to be nirantar. Prabhupada in the word to word says constantly, 24 hours daily. So, and bhuyasa means with great seriousness. So with great seriousness, 24 hours, these words are constantly mentioned in the Shastra. In the Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna speaks about it so many times. Some verses where Krishna says constantly, Satatam kirtayanto mam. Where else? Ananyas chintayanto mam. Tesham satadayuktanam. So many verses. And so that constantly, that is one of the characteristics. And in the definition of pure devotional service, where does Rupa Goswami say it should be constantly? In the definition of pure devotional service? Yes, which is the specific syllable there? Anu, yes, the syllable anu refers to constantly. And the word anu has two meanings, constantly and following in the footsteps of previous acharyas. So you see the same instructions are here also. Narad Muni has told the same thing. Follow in the footsteps of previous acharyas. It should be constant. So you see all the acharyas give similar instructions. There is no difference. That is called parampara. Yes. And you must be aloof from all the activities of sense gratification. So in this way, Narad Muni gave all these instructions to Dhruva Maharaj as to how to perform devotional service. And then Dhruva Maharaj, with great determination, follows those instructions of Narad Muni. Okay, so somebody can continue to read the translations. Now we are reading Dhruva Maharaj's austerities.
When Dhruva Maharaj, the son of king, was thus advised by great sage Narada, he circumambulated Narada, his spiritual master, and offered him respectful obeisances. Then he started for Madhuvana, which is always imprinted with the lotus footprints of Lord Sri Krishna, and which is therefore especially auspicious.
You can read one more, please.
After Dhruva entered Madhuvan forest to execute devotional service, the great sage Narada thought it wise to go to king to see how he was faring within the palace. When Narad Muni approached, the king received him properly, offering him due obeisances. After being seated comfortably, Narad began to speak.
Okay, so now this is a section where King Uttanapad is repenting for what he has done. Okay, so this is the section, and then the last section is Dhruva Maharaj's austerities. So here a few verses are speaking about King Uttanapad's repentance. Please read.
The great sage Narad inquired, "My dear king, your face appears to be withering up. You look like you have been thinking of something for a very long time. Why is that? Have you been hampered in following your path of religious rites, economic development, and sense gratification?"
Next.
The king replied, "O best of the Brahmanas, I am very much addicted to my wife, and I am so fallen that I have abandoned all merciful behavior. Even to my son, who is only 5 years old, I have banished him and his mother, even though he is a great soul and a great devotee."
Okay, so here we find the king lamenting, repenting for what he has done. Okay, so when one does something wrong, which is not according to religious principles, then the result is one can never be peaceful. The result is one feels guilty and one has to repent. And here we find that King Uttanapad, even though he showed that favoritism, as a result of which Dhruva Maharaj left for the forest. So he did all that. So at that point of time, the king, he thought, what's wrong? I have my favorite wife and I'm showing favoritism. And so what? So what? But you can see the result. The result is that the king here, he's suffering. He's suffering. He's feeling so repentant. He's lamenting, what have I done? My small child has gone to the forest. What happened to him? Who knows? So the important lesson is that, yesterday also we were discussing this point, that it is the responsibility of everyone to follow the rules and regulations of the scriptures. So if one does not follow, thinking that one will cause harm to someone else, but actually, who is put into the greatest difficulty? Oneself. Oneself lands in trouble. So if one thinks that I can do harm to others by not following scripture, by neglecting the injunctions of scriptures, so, okay, that person will be harmed. He will be in problem. I'm safe. No, it never works like that. If one does not follow, one has to get the reaction. Srila Prabhupada, so many times he says, one may escape the laws of the state, but one cannot escape the laws of God, the laws of nature. The laws of nature are very stringent. And so therefore, the reaction has to come. Later on in the 6th canto, we will study the pastime of Indra, how Indra, he committed quite a few blunders. We know how he cut the 3 heads of Vishwarup because he saw that Vishwarup was doing some partiality to the demons. And then as a result of that, he was affected by sinful reactions. Then after that, he performed, what did he perform? He performed some tapasya, right? Pumsa Vanvrat? No. What did he perform? No, not bad. So anyway, so he performed some austerities and he got rid of that. Then later on, then we know how then and then Vritrasur came. Vritrasur came because then this father of Vishwarup, who was that? Tvashta. So Tvashta performed sacrifice. As a result of Vritrasur came. And then now Indra wanted to kill Vritrasur. So then when Indra wanted to kill Vritrasur, Brahmana, first he killed one Brahmana, Vishwarup. For that he landed in trouble. He actually distributed sinful reactions to various things. If you remember, he distributed sinful reactions to the trees and to the water and women, like that. So that's how he got rid of sinful reactions at that time. So now again, he's going to kill a Brahmana, Vritrasur. So this time what he did, he went and consulted the Brahmanas. So what to do? Should I kill Vritrasur? He's a Brahmana. What should I do? He consulted the Brahmanas of the heavenly planets, who were some sort of Karmakandi Brahmanas, and they had some motives. So the Brahmanas told, kill him, no problem. You kill him and then we will do Ashwamedh Yajna to neutralize all the sinful reactions. So Indra did that. He went and killed Vritrasur. After he killed Vritrasur, he went back to the Brahmanas and now perform Ashwamedh Yajna to neutralize. They said, sorry, sir. They threw their hands in the air and said, your problem. You killed such a great Brahmana, Vritrasur. Now we cannot do anything for you. And then what Indra had to do? He had to go into the lotus flower in the Manasarovar lake and hide in the stem of the lotus, and he was hungry for so many hundreds of years. So then one may think, okay, Indra is suffering for all his, and then there was a sin personified who was chasing him in the form of an old, ugly Chandala woman. So serious trouble for Indra. Then somebody may say, okay, Brahmanas gave wrong advice. Then are they not responsible? Yes, they are also responsible for giving wrong advice. Nobody is spared. Nobody is spared. Then what happened to the Brahmanas? How the Brahmanas got reaction? So the Brahmanas, then because Indra was hiding in the stem of the lotus for some hundreds of years, then somebody has to be Indra. So then they appointed Nahusha as Indra. And Nahusha, he caused problem for the Brahmanas. So the Brahmanas got punished by Nahusha. So this is how action, reaction. Nobody gets spared in the material world. Everyone has to face the reaction for his activities. Such are the stringent laws of material nature. Prabhupada repeats this so many times in his lectures, the stringent laws of material nature. So stringent that even Yamaraj was not spared because of poking one ant with a no, Manduka Muni, yes. Manduka Muni was, he poked one ant through the rectum with some grass or something. He had to be punished even for that. Such are the stringent laws of material nature. So nobody is spared. If one is thinking, I can do some nonsense and I can get away, it is simply a big, big illusion. Therefore, to be Krishna conscious 24 hours, as is being repeatedly told in the Shastra, means 24 hours one has to meditate. Am I following the principles of scriptures? Am I following the principles of dharma? Am I following the instructions of Krishna? 24 hours Krishna consciousness means this. Otherwise, the reactions are bound to come. There is no doubt about it. And so here we find Uttanapada is lamenting, oh, what did I do? And Prabhupada writes in the purport, the king said that since he was very much addicted to his wife, he had lost all his mercy. That is the result of becoming too affectionate towards women. So further down, Prabhupada writes, the king repented having banished his boy, for Dhruva was only 5 years old, and a father should not banish his wife and children or neglect their maintenance. Repentant over his neglect of both Suniti and her son, he was morose and his face appeared withered. So he has not followed one of the Shastric injunction. What is the Shastric injunction he didn't follow? According to Manusmriti, one should never desert his wife and children. In a case where the wife and children are disobedient and do not follow the principles of home life, they are sometimes given up. But in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, this was not applicable because Dhruva was very mannerly and obedient. Moreover, he was a great devotee. Such a person is never to be neglected, yet the king was obliged to banish him. Now he was very sorry. So we find that repentance is an important aspect of devotional service, and we find various examples of repentance in the Shastra, like, yes, one of the classic examples is Ajamil. Yudhishthira Maharaj when? Yes, after the Kurukshetra war. Some other examples?
Parikshit Maharaj after going back from the forest.
Parikshit Maharaj.
After putting the dead snake in the Shamak Rishis.
Okay, very good example. Yes, after putting the dead snake around Shamik Rishi, he repented. And in that context, Srila Prabhupada writes that beautiful golden statement, repentance comes in the mind of a good soul whenever he commits a mistake. So when one commits a mistake, if one is a good soul, then immediately there must be repentance. And what is the effect of repentance? Srila Prabhupada writes in those purports. What is that? By repentance, all the sinful reactions are burnt up in the fire of repentance. So therefore, if one has committed something wrong, then repentance is something which is very, very important, because by that repentance, the sinful reactions are burnt up. And so here we find that King Uttanapada is also repenting for his mistakes. Please. Right. Yes. Please read the translation of the next verse.
My dear Brahmana, the face of my son was just like a lotus flower. I am thinking of his precarious condition. He is unprotected and he might be very hungry. He might have lain down somewhere in the forest and the wolves might have attacked him to eat his body.
Continue, please.
Alas, just see how I was conquered by my wife. Just imagine my cruelty. Out of a love and affection, the boy was trying to get up on my lap, but I did not receive him. Nor did I even pat him for a moment. Just imagine how hearted I am.
Continue, please.
The great sage Narad replied, my dear king, please do not be aggrieved about your son. He is well protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although you have no actual information of his influence, his reputation is already spread all over the world.
So Narad Muni is pacifying the king. He's saying, please do not aggrieve. He's saying twice, Mama Shucha Swataniyam, Mama. Twice he says, do not. So he's trying to pacify him. He's lamenting so much. He's saying, don't worry. Your Swataniyam, your son, he is Devaguptam. He's very well protected by the Lord. So don't worry. And actually his fame, Yad Yasho Jagat, his Yasha has spread throughout the Jagats, throughout the entire universe. So Narad Muni is predicting what is going to happen very soon. And so this is very similar to when Yudhishthira Maharaj was lamenting. When he was lamenting in the 13th chapter of the first canto, we read, he was lamenting for what? No, in the 13th chapter of the first canto, he was lamenting for another reason. Yes, when Dhritarashtra left home along with Gandhari without informing anyone, at that time he was lamenting that my uncle and aunt have left. I could not take care of them. They were old. Now they have gone to the forest. Who will take care of them? So that time also Narad Muni comes and assures him the same thing. He says, don't worry, don't worry. The Supreme Lord who's taking care of all the animals in the jungle will also take care of Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. So nothing to worry. So ultimately the Supreme Protector is the Supreme Lords. So parents may think we are the protectors, and so many other people may think we are the protectors. Unless we take care, who will take care? My counselees are there, mentees are there, so many people are there. Who will take care? I'm the only caretaker. No, we are caretakers, no doubt, but the ultimate caretaker we should always remember is the Supreme Lord. He is the one who ultimately gives protection and who ultimately takes care. So we are simply insignificant instruments. Okay. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, Sharanagati or surrender means acceptance or firm belief that wherever the surrendered soul lives, he is always protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is never alone or unprotected. Rakshashati iti vishwa. So one has full faith that Krishna will definitely protect anyone who engages in devotional service anywhere within the universe. Is never unprotected. Anyone, anywhere in the universe is never unprotected. So the Supreme Lord is always there to give protection. And that is our faith. That is our faith. So therefore, there need be no insecurity. Who will take care of me? Who will protect me when I grow old? Sometimes one of the important causes of insecurity for brahmacharis. Who will take care of me? But here is the evidence. The Lord is assuring, Narad Muni is assuring, we are followers of Narad Muni. The Lord is always there to give protection to every living entity. And so therefore, there need not be any fear as to who is going to give protection. Prabhupada is writing, anywhere in the universe. In one lecture, Prabhupada is saying, the devotee will always be protected, whether on earth, in heaven, or in hell. Therefore, even if one is told to go to hell and preach, one should preach. Because the Lord will always be there to protect. And therefore, we see how Haridas Thakur, he was living in the cave. And who was there with him? Who was his good friend there? Not ordinary snake, not some chota mota snake. Who was there? Poisonous cobra emitting such poisonous fumes, nobody could even come near the cave. But then what happened? What happened? Who left? Yes, the cobra left. So the cobra left when the people, they could not enter, and Haridas Thakur, he was fearless. Haridas Thakur was not fearful. Of course, we cannot imitate. We can't imitate. It's not that. What's that? Kaun kya bol raha hai? Yes. So we have to do the needful, but the important point is the symptom of a devotee is 3 symptoms of sannyasis. Krishna speaks about in the first verse of the 16th chapter. What is that? Abhayam, Sattva Samshuddhir, Jnana Yoga, Vyavasthithi. So these are 3 symptoms for sannyasis. Abhayam. So for a devotee, the devotee is fearless because he knows that the Lord is there as Paramatma. Prabhupada writes in that purport. The Lord is there as Paramatma in the devotee's heart, in the animal's heart. And so unless the Paramatma sanctions, nothing can happen. Nothing can happen to the devotee. And so therefore, that is a symptom of surrender. We have full faith. Anywhere in the universe one can go, the Lord will definitely be there to protect. Of course, one has to do the needful. Okay, please continue reading.
My dear king, your son is very competent. He will perform activities which would be impossible even for great kings and sages. Very soon he will complete his task and come back home. You should know that he will also spread your reputation all over the world.
Yeah, so Narad Muni is predicting what will happen, how Dhruva will become very famous, and he will also increase the reputation of Uttanapad because he's his son. He will spread your reputation also. So here, Narad Muni has described Dhruva as Prabhu, Lokapale Rapi Prabhu. So where is the other example where the disciple calls, where the spiritual master calls the disciple as Prabhu? Narad Muni telling? Vyasdev, right? So Narad Muni's etiquettes, we can learn from Narad Muni, the etiquettes, how to call even somebody junior, even it be a disciple as Prabhu, and not only just call, but be in that mood of thinking as Prabhu. And commenting on this, Srila Prabhupada in one lecture, he says, so therefore, we are calling our disciple Kirtananand Maharaj, his disciple, Prabhupada is saying, Kirtananand Maharaj, we call him Maharaj. So this is the etiquette that the acharyas are showing, the respectful etiquettes. And here Narad Muni, the supreme spiritual master, is also showing the etiquettes. He's addressing his disciples also as Prabhu. And Prabhupada is commenting on that. The spiritual master is addressed as Prabhupada. Prabhu means the supreme personality of Godhead, and Pad means post. According to Vaishnava philosophy, the spiritual master occupies the post of the supreme personality of Godhead, or in other words, he is the bona fide representative of the Supreme Lord. Dhruva Maharaj is also described here as Prabhu because he's an acharya of the Vaishnava school. Another meaning of Prabhu is master of the senses, just like the word Swami. Okay, so Prabhu also means master of the senses. The most difficult task. What was the task that Dhruva Maharaj undertook? And so it is said, Sudushkaram. The most difficult task in life is to satisfy the supreme personality of Godhead. And that Dhruva Maharaj would be able to do. So the most difficult task is to satisfy the supreme personality of Godhead. So, and Prabhupada says, we must remember that Dhruva Maharaj was not fickle. He was determined to execute his service and then come back. Every devotee, therefore, Prabhupada is given instruction for every devotee. So each one included. Every devotee, therefore, should be determined. What should be his determination? That in this life, he'll be able to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and by that process, go back home, back to Godhead. Prabhupada, in many of his lectures also, he says, my Guru Maharaj would say that finish the business in one life. Don't wait for another life. Finish the business. Prabhupada is following in the footsteps of his Guru Maharaj and expressing the same mood that we must be able to satisfy the Supreme Lord and finish the business in one life. For that, what is required? Determination like Dhruva Maharaj. That is the price one has to pay. The determination like Dhruva Maharaj. If one wants to go back home, back to Godhead in one life, the quality that is required is the determination like Dhruva Maharaj. And then that is the perfection of the highest mission of life. So this is the section where King Uttanapad is repenting and Narad Muni pacifies him. Now we go to the last section of the chapter, which is Dhruva Maharaj's austerities. Please continue reading.
The great sage Maitreya continues. The king Uttanapad, after being advised by Narad Muni, practically gave up all duties in relation with his kingdom, which was very vast and wide, opulent like the goddess of fortune, and he simply began to think of his son Dhruva.
Next.
Elsewhere, Dhruva Maharaj, having arrived at Madhuvan, took his bath in the river Yamuna and observed fasting in the night with great care and attention. After that, as advised by the great sage Narada, he engaged himself in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Continue, please.
For the first month, Dhruva Maharaj ate only fruits and berries on every third day, only to keep his body and soul together. And in this way, he progressed in his worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Okay, you'll read the translations till the end of the chapter.
In the second month, Dhruva Maharaj ate only every 6 days, and for his eatables, he took dry grass and leaves. Thus, he continued his worship. In the third month, he drank water only every 9 days. Thus, he remained completely in trance and worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is adored by selected verses. In the fourth month, Dhruva Maharaj became a complete master of the breathing exercise, and thus he inhaled air only every 12th day. In this way, he became completely fixed in his position and worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By the fifth month, Maharaj Dhruva, the son of the king, had controlled his breathing so perfectly that he was able to stand on only one leg, just as a column stands, without motion, and concentrate his mind fully on the Parabrahman. He completely controlled his senses and their objects, and in this way he fixed his mind, without diversion to anything else, upon the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When Dhruva Maharaj thus captured the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the refuse of the total material creation and who is the master of all living entities, the three worlds began to tremble. As Dhruva Maharaj, the king's son, kept himself steadily standing on one leg, the pressure of his big toe pushed down half the earth, just as an elephant being carried on a boat rocks the boat left and right with his every step. When Dhruva Maharaj became practically one in heaviness with Lord Vishnu, the total consciousness, due to his fully concentrating and closing all the holes of his body, the total universal breathing became choked up. And all great demigods in all the planetary systems felt suffocated and thus took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The demigod said, "Dear Lord, you are the refuse of all moving and non-moving living entities. We feel all living entities to be suffocating, their breathing process choked up. We have never experienced such a thing. Since you are the ultimate shelter of all surrendered souls, we have therefore approached you. Kindly save us from this danger." The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, "My dear demigods, do not be perturbed by this. It is due to the severe austerity and full determination of the son of King Uttanapad, who is now fully absorbed in thought of me. He has obstructed the universal breathing process. You can safely return to your respective homes. I shall stop this boy in his severe acts of austerities, and you will be saved from this situation."
Okay. So somebody can go behind and read the purport to text 71.
Text 71 purport. The significance of this particular verse is that Dhruva Maharaj acted exactly according to the advice of his spiritual master, the great sage Narada. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also advises that if we want to be successful in our attempt to go back to Godhead, we must very seriously act according to the instruction of the spiritual master. That is the way of perfection. There need be no anxiety over attaining perfection, because if one follows the instruction given by the spiritual master, he is sure to attain perfection. Our only concern should be how to execute the order of the spiritual master. A spiritual master is expert in giving special instructions to each of his disciples, and if the disciple executes the order of the spiritual master, that is the way of his perfection.
Okay, so we have heard this several times, but this is the way of perfection, to follow very seriously, act according to the instructions of the spiritual master. That is the way of perfection. So the only anxiety should be how to follow the instruction. So if one follows, then Prabhupada says there need not be any anxiety. Perfection is assured. But our anxiety should be how to follow those instructions. And we can see in these purports, Srila Prabhupada has given us so many instructions. Srila Prabhupada has given for every devotee, every disciple, so many instructions have been given. So our only anxiety is how we can try and follow all these instructions very seriously. In text 72, Srila Prabhupada writes that Dhruva Maharaj is an acharya, and by undergoing severe austerities and penances, he teaches us how one should execute devotional service. We should always remember that to become a bona fide devotee of the Lord is not an easy task. So this point is coming twice in the previous purport also, Sudushkaram. So it is not an easy task. It is no doubt difficult. But in this age, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, it has been made very easy. But if we do not follow even the liberal instructions of Lord Chaitanya, how can we expect to discharge our regular duties in devotional service? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has already made the process so simple. Who is able to follow austerities of Dhruva Maharaj now? Who is able to do that? This is, of course, Satya Yuga. So previous yugas, so many difficulties to practice devotional service, so much austerity, so much austerity. But knowing that Kali Yuga people will not be able to follow, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has already made the process very simple. But if at least we don't follow the simple process that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada especially have given us, then how is it possible to attain perfection? It is not possible in this age to follow Dhruva Maharaj in his austerity, but the principles must be followed. The principles must be followed. So we may not be able to imitate Dhruva Maharaj, but the principles have to be followed. So we have to learn the principles which Dhruva Maharaj has given us by his example. We should not disregard the regulative principles given by our spiritual master, for they make it easier for the conditioned soul. As far as our ISKCON movement is concerned, we simply ask that one observe the 4 prohibitive rules, chant 16 rounds, and instead of indulging in luxurious eating for the tongue, simply accept prasad offered to the Lord. This does not mean that with our fasting, the Lord should also fast. The Lord should be given foodstuff which is as nice as possible. See, Prabhupada giving specific instructions for ISKCON devotees. So all these have to be taken very seriously. But we should not make it a point to satisfy our own tongues. As far as possible, we should accept simple foodstuff just to keep the body and soul together to execute devotional service. It is our duty to remember always that in comparison to the Dhruva Maharaj, we are insignificant. We cannot do anything like what Dhruva Maharaj did for self-realization, because we are absolutely incompetent to execute such service. But by Lord Chaitanya's mercy, we have been given all concessions possible for this age. So at least we should always remember that neglect of our prescribed duties in devotional service will not make us successful in the mission we have undertaken. And so at least the rules and regulations that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us, that Srila Prabhupada has given us, at least these must be followed seriously. Then only it is possible to be successful in the mission. It is our duty to follow in the footsteps of Dhruva Maharaj, for he was very determined. We should also be determined to finish our duties in executing devotional service in this life. In this life, we should not wait for another life to finish our job. Why not? Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe Yogo Varashna Vijayate. What is the problem? What is the problem? Devotional service can continue in the next life. Neha Bikramanaashasti Pratyavayanodit Swalpam Yas Dharmasya Traite Mahatu Bayat. So what is the problem? Why Prabhupada again and again he's saying, finish the business in this life. थोड़ा आराम से जाएंगे, क्या problem है? हाँ? Dhruva Maharaj, बोलो, माइक दे दो. माइक में बोलो. आप जो बोलेंगे वो अथॉरिटी है.
We may deviate or we may stuck somewhere else by luxurious life.
क्या?
We may stuck somewhere else.
Somewhere else. कहाँ?
In this planet only.
Okay, ठीक है. What else? हाँ, श्याम जगन्नाथ. So what accidents?
One may not be able to perfect his life.
When?
May get stuck up here in the material world.
Even if he comes back again in Shuchinam Srimatam. So yes, that's correct. Yes, Manmohan Shampru.
In this life, we have full facilities. We have shelter of Prabhupada. We have shelter of ISKCON. We have all the coming line of Parampara. So we can.
So next life also it is possible.
That is.
Next life also maybe you'll get birth in some nice Vaishnava family in ISKCON. And then you can once again continue very nicely. And then somebody will have this Bhakta Prahlad school. And Kaustubh will preach to the teenager. And Antadip Prabhu will have his youth program.
Hare Krishna.
Huh?
Can I answer, Prabhuji?
So all facilities will be available. And Sudhamnath Prabhu will be there for performing Harinam.
Srila Prabhupada said, don't trust the future no matter how rosy.
Okay, that's a good statement. Very nice.
Hare Krishna.
हाँ बोलो कीर्ति कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna.
No, we are asking something else, Prabhu. Our question is, what is the problem if we take birth next life? Shuchinam, Srimatam, Gay, the chance will be given in next life. So what is the problem? Why Prabhupada is emphasizing again and again, finish business in one life, be determined like Dhruva Maharaj? Why he's emphasizing so much? Mithun,
Hare
you
Krishna.
have the mic, you speak.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna, bro.
Just hold on a second, we're coming to you. Everyone is very enthusiastic to finish the business in one life.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, if suppose one is not finished, so we don't know how much there will be, time gap. But if suppose somebody lands up in heavenly planets or something, and then coming back, then Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, 10,000 years, that may
Will be
also get
finished.
over. So there is always a danger.
Correct. That danger is there. Sankit. Okay, so who's online? Please share your
Hare Krishna,
position.
Prabhuji.
Yes.
Sripad Mahaprabhu Das here.
Okay. So Mahaprabhu will be there or no?
Bro, free will of the living entity is always there. And
Mm.
we should not take the risk. We don't know
Yes.
what will happen.
Yes, that's right. The free will of the living entity is always there, even if one is born in Shuchinam Srimatam. Prabhupada says in one lecture, how many people, how many children of rich families, they're becoming devotees? Many of them, they get spoiled. So where is the guarantee? There's no guarantee. So therefore, the emphasis, finish the business in one life. So some thoughts on how can we increase our determination, like Dhruva Maharaj? Some thoughts on that? How to increase determination? Yes, Dhirshant Prabhu, how to become Dhira? How to become Dhira and Shanta, like Dhruva?
Prabhuji, living a value-based life.
Okay, what are the values?
The values that Srila Prabhupada, the principles that Srila Prabhupada has given us.
Give some examples.
At least some morality, integrity has to be there. Certain things that we for ourselves have to be set, especially like we should not have duplicit nature, malice, greed, envy, all these things. We should try to see in the Mana Shiksha book also. It's there that we can try to follow.
Okay, try to follow the various injunctions of the scriptures, try to develop good qualities. Okay, thank you.
हरे कृष्णा. तो आज सुबह राधेश्याम प्रभु भागवत में बोल रहे थे कि कितने लोग हैं कि उनका दीक्षा हुआ है लेकिन वो मंदिर में नहीं आ पा रहे हैं.
तो हमें क्या करना चाहिए?
तो नहीं है तो इसीलिए तो हमें भी यही सोचना चाहिए कि हमारा अगर हमें हमारा डिटर्मिनेशन बढ़ाना है और दृढ़ता बढ़ानी है तो हमें ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा जो कोर प्रिंसिपल है उसके ऊपर फोकस करना चाहिए.
क्या है वो कोर प्रिंसिपल?
कि जैसे कि 4 नियमों का पालन करना और 16 माला जप करना और शास्त्रों का और अथॉरिटी का पालन करना. तो बहुत बार क्या होता है कि आजकल एक
नहीं क्या होता है क्या नहीं होता है वो मत बताइए. क्या करना चाहिए वो बताइए.
वही तो बता रहे ना. तो ये है कि हमें वो करना है लेकिन हमारी अथॉरिटी क्या बोलती है, जो बोला सो करो. तो इसीलिए हम नहीं कर पाते. हमें लगता है कि अल्टीमेट तो हमें क्या लगता है कि अल्टीमेट अथॉरिटी ने बोला है कि मुझे 16 माला अभी नहीं करना है, शाम को किया तो भी चलेगा. अभी मैं जो
अच्छा ठीक है.
तो इसीलिए हमें क्या करना चाहिए, प्रभुपाद ने जो कोर प्रिंसिपल दिए उसको पहले फॉलो करना है और बाद में जो इमीडिएट अथॉरिटी है उसकी सेवा करना है.
ठीक है ठीक है. बहुत धन्यवाद. हरे कृष्ण. Yes, any other thoughts how to increase determination? Yes, sir, Lakshan Prabhu, give the mic. Needless to say,
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada writes in Satatam Kirtayanto Vam Yatantasya Dridavruta. There Srila Prabhupada writes that we should do some fasting on Acharya's appearance and Krishna Janmashtami and all those Acharyas, they strictly followed all those things and they are determined to go back to Godhead. Then whoever want to go back to Godhead, they also should follow strictly.
Right. Yes. Good. Thank you. Yes, Sham Jagannath Prabhu.
spiritual master.
Right. So what should we do?
So he was determined. So we take lessons from his life.
Okay, taking lessons from the previous acharyas. Okay, good. One or two more points. How to increase determination? Satyaprabhu?
We should follow the devotees who are very determined. Okay, we should associate with them.
Okay.
Especially I remember in ashram days that no, every day in the morning, 1 o'clock, 1:30, one devotee used to get up and he used to read Srimad Bhagavatam. And it was very inspiring for me.
Good. Thank you. Yes, association is very important. Good. Okay. Maybe 1, 2 more points. How to increase determination? Okay, Revtipati Prabhu will give us some conclusive guidelines on how to increase determination. Everyone please pay attention. Revtipati Prabhu is going to reveal the golden secrets.
I'm making proposals. I don't get conclusions these days. I make proposals. Srila Prabhupada, in context of Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, mentioned that one should choose the austerities at one's level and should perform them. So performance austerities is a one sure way of increasing the determination. But the austerities should be chosen as per one's level of advancement, one's adhikar, and the blessing should be taken from the, the spiritual master or representatives. And then with the prayerful mood, if austerities are done, then the determination definitely increases, because austerity includes, like sense control, and when senses are controlled, then one is more determined to either practice more intensely or serve more intensely. So austerities are one very, recommended way, but it has to be done with caution.
Yes, good, very good point. So yes, Rupa Goswami also says in the Nectar of Devotion that one must practice devotional principles according to one's level. So yes, according to one's level, one needs to be determined, but of course it doesn't mean that one is determined to be at the same level. One should also be determined to advance from that level, as Raghunath Das Goswami showed, his increasing austerity and his constant meditation on how to increase the standard of one's devotional service and not to remain at the same platform. But yes, one should know one's capacity and then accordingly practice devotional service and ultimately be determined to please Guru and Krishna by one's practices. Then one can be successful. And so here we see Dhruva Maharaj, by his austerities, he became as heavy as the Supreme Lord, because the Supreme Lord took residence within, became manifest within. And the Supreme Lord, he is the embodiment of the whole universe. So he became so heavy that he pressed down the entire earth with his big toe. And also, now in the purport to text 80, it is mentioned that maybe this example, the engineers will be able to understand and explain better. When hundreds of persons are sitting in an airplane, although they remain individual units, they each share in the total force of the airplane, which runs at thousands of miles per hour. Similarly, when unit energy is identified with the service of the total energy, the unit energy becomes as powerful as the total energy. Somebody would like to explain this analogy? All engineers here, please explain. What is that? 80. So what is this? Yes, Mitra Krishna Prabhu.
Because the people who are part of the airplane.
No, this, see in the text 80 purport, Prabhupada is giving the example of this airplane. So we are asking what is the meaning of this airplane analogy that Prabhupada is giving.
When a person is sitting in the airplane, so he's also part of it.
Correct.
So means whatever is the total force that is being applied, so even he's also sharing that part.
Correct.
So same way also when a person becomes means a part of the mission of Lord.
No, here in regards to Dhruva Maharaj, how is he's choking up all the air of the universe and everyone is feeling choked. So what is the connection?
Because of his connection with the Supreme Lord. So the unit becomes, means here it is told, identified with the service of total energy. So total energy is referring to Supreme Lord. And the unit energy is Dhruva Maharaj. So then unit energy is becoming as powerful as total energy
Right.
because of his strong connection.
Yes, that's right. So, so just like every person within the airplane shares the mass of the airplane. So, what is that formula which momentum is momentum? What is the formula for momentum? Momentum, no? What is that? Mass and mass into what is that? Force is equal to mass into acceleration. So that means the force of the entire airplane is determined by the mass. So if the mass is more, then force is more, momentum is more, correct? So therefore it becomes very difficult for the bigger body to come to a halt, like the airplane or the train or the big truck. It's very difficult to put a sudden brake because the mass is more. When the mass is more, the force is more. So every person in the airplane is sharing the mass of the entire airplane. And so similarly here, Dhruva Maharaj, because of having the Supreme Lord within himself, so therefore his weight, and he is contributing to the life air of every living entity within the universe, because he is controlling the entire universe, having controlled the Supreme Lord. He has brought the Supreme Lord within his control. The Supreme Lord is the embodiment of the whole universe. So everyone within the universe is being affected by his stopping his breathing. And that's how everyone is getting suffocated. And especially the demigods are so concerned about their lives. So immediately they go to the Lord and ask, what's happening? And so the Lord said, don't worry. We'll do the needful. Okay, so this is, of course, the glory of the Devtas. They immediately go to the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada again takes, in the last purport, he takes his opportunity to defeat Mayavad. And he says the Mayavadi philosopher's conclusion that the super soul and the individual soul become united is not supported by this statement. Rather, the super soul, the personality of Godhead, wanted to stop Dhruva Maharaj from this severe austerity. And in the last paragraph, if one can attract the supreme personality of Godhead, one naturally attracts the whole universe, because Krishna is the supreme cause of the universe. And that's what Srila Prabhupada did. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, fine. So we'll take a break and we will begin the next chapter after the break. Hare Krishna. After the break. Hare Krishna. उनको माइक दे दो.
In the process that Narad Muni gave, there was section like hearing the activities of the Lord. But he's alone in the forest. So how will he hear? And what he did actually to hear? And
So as far as the Bhagavatam is concerned, here what we are seeing is he is worshipping the Lord. He's made a form of the Lord. He is chanting the mantra. And in these purports, Srila Prabhupada is also explaining that how when, wait a second, I'll just, where is that verse where it talks about hearing the pastimes?
verse 57.
57. Okay. Besides worshipping the deity and chanting the mantra, you should meditate upon the transcendental activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his different incarnations. That's right. And so if you see, towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada is writing, Narada advises Dhruva to meditate on the pastimes of the Lord, which is as good as the meditation of concentrating one's mind on the form of the Lord. Everything non-different, everything on the absolute platform. So by concentrating on the form of the Lord, he's also meditating on the various pastimes of the Lord. Both of them are non-different. So whatever is possible, according to time, place, circumstances. So he's in the forest, he has the form of the Lord, and there are no other means, mobiles, laptops, nothing is available to hear anything. So therefore, Narad Muni is saying, no problem. You meditate on the form of the Lord, chant the holy names. By that, everything else is achieved. Roop, Gun, Leela, everything.
Okay. Prove another. This following in the footsteps of the previous devotees. So here we are seeing Narad Muni gave one time only association in one sense, and after that he is with himself. We see in Narad boy's case also, he was actually for 4 months with the Bhaktivedantas and then with himself. So usually many of the like when we talk about bhakti process, we talk that bhakti has to be done in the devotee sangha. But here, many of such examples we see that they are like, perfecting in their alone process of devotion service. And their realization is bhakti muhu pravatam tvaime prasango. So how do we understand this single devotional service? And even if one time you get guidance from a great soul, but after that, it is so told that we should be in the sangha of devotees. So, but here he's sitting alone and doing everything. So how do you understand this?
Anybody would like to share some answer on this? Yes, Satiprabhu. Acha, association is only required in Kali Yuga.
Because we are so disturbed.
उसमें बोलो.
We are so disturbed in Kali Yuga, and because before, like, devotees were Shrutidhars, and they could meditate upon the instruction thoroughly, and that level of integrity was very high.
Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, thank you. Yes.
Actually, Dhruva Maharaj was always associating with Narad Muni because he heard he got the instruction, and then following the instruction, he was actually associating with Narad Muni. So he was not away from the association. In the same way, Narad the boy, he was carrying the instruction, although he went to the forest, but he was meditating what he heard from the Bhaktivedanta. So he was actually in association.
Very good point. As Srila Prabhupada also said, I was never away from my Guru Maharaj because I was constantly meditating on his instruction. The association is always there through the instruction. Correct. Actually, we are going to discuss this topic in quite a good detail once we come to that verse in Dhruva Maharaj's prayers, which you just quoted. So when we come to that verse, we're going to discuss in quite a good detail. And at that time, if your question is not answered, you can once again raise it, if you don't mind. Okay, we'll come back to you. Let's see if anybody else has any question. Any other questions? Solution?
Bhaktivedanta, there exactly the verse is, he says, after that, under the shadow of banyan tree, in an inhabited forest, I began to meditate upon super soul situated within, using my intelligence as I had learned from liberated souls. Using my intelligence, that word.
Correct. So, of course, his question is, then somebody can say, okay, I have my intelligence and I'll sit and meditate. So what is the need for all this sangha, all these devotees, and then all the kurkur frictions? Why bother?
As I learned from my liberated soul.
Yeah, the Bhaktivedantas. Yes. Correct. Correct. So we'll come to this discussion again. Any other questions? Any questions? 1, 2, 3. Good. No questions.
Mentions that he is a great soul. So is there a history to Dhruva Maharaj in terms of being a great soul uh, before his this life, which makes him a great soul?
Verse number, please.
Uttan 65.
65.
And even Prabhupada is mentioning he's an acharya, so he could do such austerity. So acharya, he became an acharya or he was an acharya? Means if we consider him like a devotee who is in making, then he became an acharya by process. But before that, if we say that he's an acharya, so he could do austerity, that means someone who is an acharya will do austerity, I can't do. So Prabhupada also quotes him as an acharya, and here Uttanpad is putting him as a great soul and devotee.
Okay. Now, okay, so your question is, why is King Uttanapad saying that his son is a great soul and a great devotee, though he is not yet manifested?
Not for him.
My understanding is that just by seeing how Dhruva was so determined that he immediately went to the forest. So just on that basis, I suppose he's coming to that conclusion that he's a great soul. Otherwise, which small 5-year-old boy will go to the forest like that? So just on that basis, I feel that's how he's coming to that conclusion. If anyone has any other understanding on that. Yes, Sundasha.
He's saying here, I have banished him.
Hmm.
But prior to that, when Suniti was pregnant, that time Uttanapad happened to marry Suruchi. And when they came, he brought her from jungle, it was Gandharva marriage. When he came in, Suniti was the one who did worship for both of them, receiving them. So that time Suruchi asked, who is she? So she is your elder sister. She is my first wife. She said, nothing doing. I just can't be with her. Either you, or either me or her. You choose one. So then because he was henpecked, he was attached to Suruchi. So he banished both Suniti, who was pregnant then. So she was in the forest kind of. And there the sages and all, they guided her in Krishna consciousness, devotional way like that. And that is the time when Dhruva Maharaj was born. All the sages bless her. They say, oh queen, this is the next king, etc. They glorify her like anything. So we are very pleased with you, all that. So she says, if you are pleased with me, then give me one benediction. She said, what benediction? Blessing. Let Suruchi also have a son. She is sonless. So she was very noble lady, I mean, great devotee also. So I'm not sure, but that this comes in one Purana, because he's saying both Sahamatra Mahan Kavi. I have banished him and his mother. Though in this pastime there is no revelation of he banishing Uttanpad banishing Suniti. He only banished. I mean, banished means Dhruva Maharaj left place. Suniti is there only, so she was staying nearby. Many more details are there in the Puranas, but I just told in context of this.
Possible. But of course, it could also mean that banish the mother means he neglected her in this case. That also. I mean, of course, if something is there. All right.
One more.
Okay, good.
This is the 69th verse. It's saying that very soon he will complete his task and come back home. You should know that he will also spread your reputation all over the world. So devotional service is also guided by free will. So in that, this Jiva is still beginning his devotional service. He has just gone to the forest, and Narad Muni thinks of going to the father. So here two free wills are still pending, like in the sense Dhruva Maharaj has to do his devotional service. And when the Lord becomes pleased with his devotional service, Narad Muni becomes pleased, and he gets mercy of the Lord to him. But he's already predicting the entire thing. So how do we understand
Trikalagya.
this? Trikalagya, but the dynamism of free will is also involved. No?
That is there, but Narad Muni is convinced. I mean, that is Trikalagya. No? They can see what will happen in the future. So they will know, they know that this person will use his free will like this, and this is what is going to happen. So
that means his free will is not really.
No, that means he knows that he will appropriately use his free will.
How is it free then?
Huh?
because Dhruva Maharaj can change his plan. No, no,
Yes,
I want to just rest.
he can, but he will not. I mean, that's the meaning of Trikalagya. Otherwise, what is the meaning of Trikalagya?
I don't know. You have to tell.
So it is mentioned somewhere in one previous purport also. The question was raised that how did Narad Muni know? Somewhere Prabhupada
So
raises
that is about when Dhruva has already decided to go,
Mm.
and Lord knows his heart that he wants a guru. That time it comes. So from a Trikalagya point of view, he knows that in the past Dhruva has desired this, and the Lord is giving him inspiration to go and help him.
Okay,
So,
so
that way it doesn't go wrong with this what we are talking here.
Okay, but then the very fact that the Lord is sending Narada, and Narada is no ordinary person, so things are a little quite obvious in this case. So that's my understanding. Huh? Gaurang?
Related to that only, like Prabhupada, when Prabhupada also born. So in astrology, it was predicted that either he'll become a very big businessman or something, or like spiritual leader, sannyas. So
Yes.
how?
So yes, so that's astrology. That is knowing future. If it is always that the person can use his free will and things will not happen, then what is the meaning to all this science then, astrology and all this? Of course, astrology may not be applied so much for devotees because Krishna is in control. All that is taken into consideration. But then also Srila Prabhupada says, yes, the very good astrologers, then they can predict. Okay.
Amount of opulence, and that can be predicted because that is past karma, na?
But then devotional service is not under karma.
So devotional service also past, what he has performed is something that can be registered because he has done something in the past. So that is something within the context of past. But if we say that his fresh use of free will in the current domain is also determined by the Trikalagya person only, then he has nothing to do actually.
Yes, the use of free will is always there. At the same time, Srila Prabhupada gives a simple example that just like if you put a bottle of wine in front of a drunkard, is there any doubt as to what he's going to do?
Predicting based on past sanskara. See, there are two parts. There is an external reaction and there is an internal reaction. So the past sanskara can be predicted from the past and the external circumstance can be predicted. But what cannot be predicted that how he will use his free will against his past sanskaras and against the external circumstance. That is his usage of free will. Na? So
that is the greatness of Narad Muni. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll go to the next chapter. Chapter 9, Dhruva Maharaj returns home. Next, full screen, please. Five sections of the chapter, 1 to 5. The Lord appears and empowers Dhruva to speak. 6 to 17, Dhruva Maharaj's prayers. 18 to 26, the Supreme Lord bestows benedictions to Dhruva and departs. 27 to 36, Dhruva's regret. And 37 to 67, Dhruva reaches his father's palace. So the first section is the first 5 verses. The Lord appears and empowers Dhruva to speak. Text 1. Translation, please. Please read.
The great sage Maitreya told Vidura, when the demigods were thus reassured by the personality of Godhead, they were freed from all fears, and after offering their obeisances, they returned to their heavenly planets. Then the Lord, who is non-different from Sahasrashirsha incarnation, got on the back of Garuda, who carried him to the Madhuvan forest to see his servant Dhruva.
You can please read all the 5.
The form of the Lord, which was brilliant like lightning, and in which Dhruva Maharaj, in his mature yogic process, was fully absorbed in meditation, all of a sudden disappeared. Thus, Dhruva was perturbed, and his meditation broke. But as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the Supreme Personality of God had personally present, just as he had been seeing the Lord in his heart. When Dhruva Maharaj saw his Lord just in front of him, he was greatly agitated and offered him obeisances and respect. He fell flat before him like a rod and became absorbed in love of Godhead. Dhruva Maharaj, in ecstasy, looked upon the Lord as if he were drinking the Lord with his eyes, kissing the lotus feet of the Lord with his mouth, and embracing the Lord with his arms. Although Dhruva Maharaj was a small boy, he wanted to offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in suitable language, but because he was inexperienced, he could not adjust himself immediately. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, could understand Dhruva Maharaj's awkward position. Out of his causeless mercy, he touched his conch shell to the forehead of Dhruva Maharaj, who stood before him with folded hands. At that time, Dhruva Maharaj became perfectly aware of the Vedic conclusion and understood the absolute truth and his relationship with all living entities. In accordance with the line of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, whose fame is widespread, Dhruva, who in the future would receive a planet which would never be annihilated, even during the time of dissolution, offered his deliberate and conclusive prayers.
Okay, so the Lord appeared in front of him, and then Dhruva Maharaj wanted to offer prayers, but he was a small boy, he could not. So the Lord empowered him by touching his forehead with his conch shell. In the purport of text 4, Srila Prabhupada writes, the personality of Godhead being situated in everyone's heart specifically gives a devotee intelligence to describe him. It is therefore understood that when a devotee writes or speaks about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his words are dictated by the Lord from within. So maybe this could be the answer to your question. The Lord has dictated to Narad Muni what will happen in the future. And the Lord cannot be wrong, correct? Some things are also inconceivable, yes. So we have to accept, yes. Okay, so purport to text 5. Dhruva Maharaj never went to any school or academic teacher to learn the Vedic conclusion. But because of his devotional service to the Lord, as soon as the Lord appeared and touched his forehead with his conch shell, automatically the entire Vedic conclusion was revealed to him. That is the process of understanding Vedic literature. One cannot understand it simply by academic learning. Next paragraph. As a result of his rendering such devotional service with great determination and austerity, the personality of Godhead personally manifested before him. Okay, so the Lord was pleased by his great determination and austerity. And so the Lord was pleased, he appeared before him. Towards the end of the purport, Dhruva Maharaj attained this perfection not by acting hastily, but by patiently executing the order of his spiritual master. And therefore he became so successful that he saw the Lord face to face. Okay, so he acted with great determination and patience. Utsa, Nishay, Dhairya. So the patience has to be there. What is the famous analogy Prabhupada gives for patience? Yes, the pregnant lady, she has to wait for the child. Okay, so that's the example he gives. And the last line of the purport, last sentences. To glorify or offer praise unto the Supreme, one needs the Lord's mercy. One cannot write to glorify the Lord unless one is endowed with his causeless mercy. Okay, so one cannot write or speak about the Supreme Lord unless one has the Lord's mercy. Some other Shastric examples to establish the Siddhanta. Yes. Yes, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, before writing the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when it take blessings of Vaishnavas and the Lord. Good. Any other examples? Right. Correct. So. Yes. Okay, fine. We can take that example. Yes, Raghav. Okay, okay. The example of Jayadeva Goswami is that. Yes, Srila Prabhupada also was inspired. Srila Prabhupada in fact said about his purports. What did he say? Yes, the Lord has dictated them. I didn't write them. Okay, so we'll see a few important purports here. Go next. Okay, this is the summary of the section chapter. Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay. Okay, so this is the Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami pastime, CC Adi 8.73. Please read. Vaishnavera Agyapay Chintita Antare Madana Gopale Gela Agyamagi Bare.
Having received the orders of the Vaishnavas, but being anxious within my heart, I went to the temple of Madana Mohan in Vrindavan to ask his permission also. Purport? A Vaishnava always follows the order of Guru and Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita was written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami by their mercy. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami considered all the devotees that have been mentioned to be the preceptor gurus or spiritual masters, and Madana Gopala, Sri Madana Mohana Vigraha, is Krishna himself. Thus, he took permission from both of them, and when he received the mercy of both Guru and Krishna, he was able to write this great literature, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Next. This example should be followed. Anyone who attempts to write about Krishna must first take permission from the spiritual master and Krishna. Krishna is situated in everyone's heart, and the spiritual master is his direct external representative. Thus, Krishna is situated antar bahi, within and without. One must first become a pure devotee by following the strict regulative principles and chanting 16 rounds daily. And when one thinks that he is actually on the Vaishnava platform, he must then take permission from the spiritual master, and that permission must also be confirmed by Krishna from within his heart. Then, if one is very sincere and pure, he can write transcendental literature, either prose or poetry.
Okay, so in other places, in lectures and purpose, Srila Prabhupada says in order to write about Krishna, one must actually be on the liberated platform. So as Prabhupada is saying here, one must be very sincere and pure. And then one must receive the orders from the spiritual masters, the Vaishnavas, confirmed by Krishna, and then only it is possible for one to write. Prabhupada says this example should be followed, should be followed. So that is the way one performs devotional service. And so the principle always exists that one always needs blessings in order to perform devotional service, blessings of the Vaishnavas, blessings of the Lord. So one can never think that now I become exalted, I don't require blessings, I'm capable of doing everything on my own. No, we were discussing yesterday also, we were discussing that how in order to make any changes or any adjustments, then one must always confirm with higher authorities, with other Vaishnavas. So when one does that, then one will always be on the safe side, and thus one can receive the blessings to perform devotional service. So here we find exalted Vaishnava Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, but he's showing us through his example how one requires the blessings of the devotees in the Lord in order to perform devotional service. Okay, this is, okay, go ahead. Further on, it's mentioned. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, E Grantha Lekaya More Madana Mohana Amara Likhani Yena Shukera Patana.
Actually, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is not my writing, but the dictation of Sri Madan Mohan. My writing is like the repetition of a parrot. Purport: this should be the attitude of all the devotees. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead recognizes a devotee, Lord gives him intelligence and dictates how he may go back home, back to Godhead. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavad Gita 10.10. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami duddhi yogam tam yena mama upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me.
Next.
The opportunity to engage in a transcendental loving service of the Lord is open to everyone because every living entity is constitutionally a servant of the Lord. To engage in the service of the Lord is natural function of the living entity. But because he is covered by the influence of Maya, the material energy, he thinks it to be a very difficult task. But if he places himself under the guidance of a spiritual master and does everything sincerely, immediately the Lord, who is situated within everyone's heart, dictates how to serve him. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. The Lord gives this direction, and thus the devotee's life become perfect. Whatever a pure devotee does is done by the dictation of the Supreme Lord. Thus, it is confirmed by the author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita that whenever he wrote, whatever he wrote was written under the direction of Sri Madan Mohan DT.
Yes. So when one is sincere, if he places himself under the guidance of spiritual master, does everything sincerely, then the Lord dictates, the Lord gives direction, and then the devotee's life becomes perfect. So Srila Prabhupada also said the same thing, that Krishna has dictated all these purports. And therefore, Shrutakirti Prabhu says that Srila Prabhupada would often relish reading his own books, reading his own purports, reading Krishna book. Shrutakirti Prabhu says, which author reads his own book? Author writes the book for others to read. But Srila Prabhupada would regularly read his own books. Shrutakirti Prabhu tells one pastime once, in the afternoon time, Srila Prabhupada, he saw that all the devotees were sleeping. So Srila Prabhupada told Shrutakirti Prabhu, wake them up. So he went, he woke up the devotees. The devotees, little embarrassed and frightened, they came to Srila Prabhupada's room. And then Srila Prabhupada told the devotees, sit down. And then Srila Prabhupada said, take a book. The devotee asked, which book? Any book. So the devotee took some book. Which page? Any page. And read. So that was Srila Prabhupada's conviction. Any book, any page, any verse, any word is non-different from Krishna. That is the potency of these VamsiVadan purports. We have to have this conviction. Sometimes devotees feel, array, what all these big purports, what to read, what to discuss, just go through the verses, read the translations, little bit here and there, purports, dekha jayega. No, the essence is the VamsiVadan purports. They have been written by Krishna himself, as told by Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, every word is purifying. That's our conviction. Every word is purifying. And therefore, the main reading has to be the purports. Not verses we can get anywhere. Verses we can get anywhere. Gita Press book, this book, that book, so many book, any book you'll get the verses. But what is the speciality of these books that have transformed the lives of millions of people all over the world? And why is Sarvalakshan Prabhu struggling so hard to distribute so many books? VamsiVadan purports, that is the speciality. So these purports can never be neglected. That is our life and soul. That is what we relish, because Krishna has dictated. Each and every word is non-different from Krishna. That is our conviction. And so therefore, why, as Prabhupada himself is writing, the Lord gives this direction, and thus the devotee's life becomes perfect. The Lord has given all this direction. And so for that, the sincerity is required, placing oneself under the guidance of the spiritual master, and then Krishna will dictate. Okay. Another wonderful example, next verse. Yes. Another wonderful example is the example of Shukdev Goswami himself. As Shukdev Goswami begins to answer the questions of Parikshit Maharaj here in the 4th chapter of the 2nd canto, Before Shukdev Goswami begins to answer Parikshit Maharaj's questions, what is he first doing? He's offering prayers. Even though Shukdev Goswami, totally self-realized soul, but he's offering prayers. Prabhupada writes in this purport, please read.
This humbleness of the pure devotee, who is 100% engaged in his service, puts the devotee of the Lord in a trance by which to realize everything, because to the sincere devotee of the Lord reveals himself, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 10.10. The Lord, being the Lord of intelligence to everyone, even in the non-devotee, favors his devotee with proper intelligence, so that automatically the pure devotee is enlightened with the factual truth about the Lord and his different energies. The Lord is revealed not by one's speculative power or by one's verbal jugglery over the absolute truth. Rather, he reveals himself to a devotee when he is fully satisfied by the devotee's service attitude. Shukadeva Goswami is not a mental speculator or compromiser following the theory of as many conclusions as many ways. Rather, he prays to the Lord, only invoking his transcendental pleasure. This is the way of knowing the Lord.
Yes. So the pure devotee, here Shukdev Goswami, he is 100% engaged in the Lord's service. And so the Lord reveals himself, and that's how the pure devotee understands the Lord. He reveals himself to a devotee when he is fully satisfied by the devotee's service attitudes. So when the service attitude is there, when the devotee is simply interested in satisfying Guru and Krishna, that is the service attitude. When he just wants to render service, then Krishna is pleased by that, and then Krishna reveals himself. And therefore, Shukdev Goswami, he offers prayers so that his words could be decorated by the Lord's mercy. That's what he says in this verse. Please read.
May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who enlivens the materially created bodies of the elements by lying down within the universe, and who in his Purusha incarnation causes the living being to be subjected to the 16 divisions of material modes, which are his generator, be pleased to decorate my statements. Purport. As a fully dependent devotee, Shukadeva Goswami, unlike a mundane man who is proud of his own capability, invokes the pleasure of the personality of Godhead so that his statements may be successful and be appreciated by the hearers. The devotee always thinks of himself as an instrumental for anything successful carried out, and he declines to take credit for anything done by himself. The godless atheist wants to take all credit for activities, not knowing that even a blade of grass cannot move without the sanction of the Supreme Spirit, the personality of Godhead. Shukadeva Goswami therefore wants to move by the direction of the Supreme Lord, who inspired Brahma to speak the Vedic wisdom.
Okay, so that's the conviction of the devotee, that I cannot speak a single word without the mercy of the Supreme Lord. I'm fully dependent on the grace of the Supreme Lord, and therefore he's never proud of his own capabilities, but rather he's fully dependent on the Lord. And therefore Srila Prabhupada also, he prays in his Markandeya Bhagavad Dharma, simply make me a puppet in your hands, make me dance. I have no capability. I do not have the words to transform the lives of these people immersed in Rajas and Tamas. Therefore, you please give me the words by which these people's hearts can be transformed. So this is the way the great devotees, they are never proud of their own capabilities, of their own words, but they know that they are 100% dependent on the Supreme Lord, and they know that only by the grace of the Supreme Lord, anything is possible. And that is what we find in such great exalted personalities like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Shukadeva Goswami, and Srila Prabhupada. And that is what Srila Prabhupada is writing here also. Dhruva Maharaj, he wanted to offer prayers, but he was incapable, and therefore he was blessed by the Supreme Lord by the touch of his conch shell, and thus he was empowered to speak and recite beautiful prayers. And that is the next section. From the 6th verse to the 17th verse is the section on Dhruva Maharaj's prayers. So we will cover a few prayers today and then we will continue tomorrow. Let's recite text 6. Dhruva Uvacha. We'll recite together. Yanta pravishya mama vachamimam prasuptam sanjeevayatya kila shaktidhara swadhamna anyamscha hastacharana shravanatva adin pranan namo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam. Translation, please.
Dhruva Maharaj said, "My dear Lord, you are all powerful. After entering within me, you have enlivened all my sleeping senses. My hands, legs, ears, touch sensation, life force, and especially my power of speech. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you."
So here Dhruva Maharaj, he is accepting the fact that all my senses have been enlivened by the Supreme Lord, and it is the Supreme Lord who has given me this power now to speak and recite prayers. So he's accepting that fact that all the senses have been originally a sleeping condition, but now they have been enlivened. Previously they were prasuptam, supta, they were inactive, dead, but they have become sanjeevayati, they have been rejuvenated by the Lord's grace. All his senses, hasta, charana, shravana, tvak, adi, pranan. So all these senses have been enlivened by the Supreme Lord. By what? Akhila Shakti. Akhila Shakti, the universal Shakti, which is Swadhamna, Swadhamna, the internal potency of the Lord. That has enlivened all these senses of the Supreme Lord. As Prabhupada writes in the purport, unless one comes to the spiritual platform, his bodily limbs, mind, and other facilities within the body are understood to be sleeping. Unless one is spiritually situated, all his activities are taken as a dead man's activities or ghostly activities. A question arises here. So, in the conditioned state, we have all materially contaminated senses, correct? Which, as is being mentioned here, they're like dead, like dead. But we are performing devotional service with the same materially contaminated senses. So then how can those activities performed by materially contaminated senses be spiritual? Yes, Satiprab.
So that's
Okay.
how
Okay, good. That is quite a precise answer, because we are performing those activities under the instruction of the spiritual master. So what happens? Okay, Sudhanu.
Perform devotional activities, the senses no more become totally spiritual.
Okay. Somebody would like to add to that? Yes, Sandip.
So Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is performed with contaminated mind and senses, but adhering to the instruction of Guru and Shastra, and that keeps it under the division of pure devotion service, because we are doing it with the instruction. The instruction is the basis of keeping it at the transcendental platform.
Yes, that's correct. A little more addition to this is more precisely, as Prabhupada explains in the Nectar of Devotion, when he describes Anushilanam. So he describes that because we are performing the devotional activities under the guidance of the spiritual master, who has taken shelter of the internal potency, the Chit Shakti, the spiritual Mahatmanas Tumam Bharata, Devim Prakritim Ashrita. So because we are performing activities under their shelter, who have taken shelter of the internal potency, therefore the importance of Anu, that is the importance of following. So when we follow the instructions given by the acharyas in parampara, that's how our devotional activities become spiritual. Otherwise, they will continue to remain materially contaminated. Therefore, performing devotional activities under instruction of the parampara is very important to transform our materially contaminated activities into spiritually activities. And that is what is being mentioned over here. That is how the Lord has empowered Dhruva Maharaj in order so that he can understand the Supreme Lord. In the third paragraph of the purport, Prabhupada writes, the spiritual enlivenment of Dhruva Maharaj's senses and mind was due to the action of the internal potency of the Lord, Swadhamna, by spiritual energy. Spiritual enlightenment is possible by the mercy of the spiritual energy of the Lord. Okay, and that's what comes through the spiritual master. Right. when a person places himself at the disposal or order of the Supreme Lord, that is called Sevon Mukha. At that time, the spiritual energy gradually reveals the Lord to him. Without revelation by the spiritual energy, one is unable to offer prayers glorifying the Lord. For the noun, when one is actually enlivened by the spiritual energy, all his senses become purified and he engages only in the service of the Lord. Such an enlightened devotee no longer has any material activities, nor has he any interest in being materially engaged. Towards the end, in the beginning, the senses are engaged by the direction of the spiritual master and Shastra, and after realization, when the same senses are purified, the engagement continues. The difference is that in the beginning, the senses are engaged in a mechanical way, but after realization, they are engaged in spiritual understanding. Okay, text 7. Ekastvameva bhagavannidamatma-shaktya maya-kyayoro gunaya mahadadya shesham shrishtvanu-vishya purushastadasadguneshu nane vadarushu vibhava suvadvibhasi. Translation. Where's the mic?
My Lord, you are the Supreme One, but by your different energies, you appear differently in the spiritual and material worlds. You create the total energy of the material world by your external potency, and after creation, you enter within the material world as a super soul. You are the Supreme Person, and through the temporary modes of material nature, you create varieties of manifestation just as fire, entering into wood of different shapes, burns brilliantly in different varieties.
So yes, so in the previous verse, Dhruva Maharaj said, now my senses have been enlivened to understand the Supreme Lord. So now the question is raised. So what is your vision of the Supreme Lord? So this verse answers, what is Dhruva Maharaj's vision of the Supreme Lord? So he has the perfect vision that he has entered idam atma shaktya maya khyaya. He has entered into this material world by his own potency. He has entered, and he is responsible for Srishtva, for creation. And then after creation, he enters Anuvishya Purushaha. He enters the universe as the super soul. And then he activates all the three gunas. And then when the gunas are activated, then there are the different manifestations of the gunas in the form of so many different bodies. So this is how the Lord, he enters, he is responsible for creation of the universe, then he enters into the universe, he enlivens the universe, then there's creation of the various bodies. So all this is done by the Supreme Lord. Srila Prabhupada refutes a point of Mayavad here. The Mayavadi philosopher thinks that the absolute truth being spread throughout the cosmic manifestation has no personal form. Okay, so the Mayavadi theory is that the Lord is spread throughout the universe. What is the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter?
Mayatadamidam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina.
Mayatadamidam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina matstani sarva bhutani na cham te shavastita. So Mayatadamidam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina. So the Lord is spread throughout the universe. So Prabhupada says that the Mayavadis say that because the Lord is spread throughout the universe, they give the example, you take a paper, you tear it into pieces and you throw them. Where is the original paper? Gone. So if the Lord is spread throughout the universe, that means he doesn't have an original form. His form is lost. Therefore, he is impersonal. That is their understanding. So understanding some key points of Mayavad philosophy and the refutation is very important, because Srila Prabhupada dwells into it in great details in the purports in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in his conversation with Prakashan and Saraswati and Sarvam Bhattacharya. So we have taken a few points from these purports. Somebody can please read.
In his Vedanta Sutra, Srila Vyasadeva has described that everything is but a transformation of the energy of the Lord. Shankaracharya, however, has misled the world by commenting that Vyasadeva was mistaken. Thus, he has raised great opposition to theism throughout the entire world. Purport. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in the Vedanta Sutra of Srila Vyasadeva, it is definitely stated that all cosmic manifestations result from transformations of various energies of the Lord. Shankaracharya, however, not accepting the energy of the Lord, thinks that it is the Lord who is transformed. He has taken many clear statements from the Vedic literature and twisted them to try to prove that if the Lord or the absolute truth were transformed, his oneness would be disturbed. Thus, he has accused Srila Vyasadeva of being mistaken in developing his philosophy of monism. Therefore, he has established Vivartavad, or the Mayavad theory of illusion.
Okay, so the Mayavad theory is Vivartavad, and the Vaishnava understanding is Parinamvad. Vivartavad, Parinamvad. So Parinamvad means it is the Lord's energies that transform. The Lord himself does not get transformed. But what the Mayavadis say? The Mayavadis say the Lord himself gets transformed. And that is called as Vivartavad. Okay, so these two terms must be clearly understood. Okay, go ahead.
Since his conception of God is impersonal, he does not believe that the entire cosmic manifestation is a transformation of the energies of the Lord. For as soon as one accepts the various energies of the absolute truth, one must immediately accept the absolute truth to be personal, not impersonal. A person can create many things by the transformation of his energy. For example, a businessman transforms his energy by establishing many big factories or business organizations, yet he remains a person, although his energy has been transformed into these many factories or business concerns. The Mayavadi philosophers do not understand this simple fact. Their tiny brains or poor fund of knowledge cannot afford them sufficient enlightenment to realize that when a man's energy is transformed, the man himself is not transformed, but remain the same person. Not believing in the fact that the energy of the absolute truth is transformed, Shankaracharya has propounded his theory of illusion. This theory states that although the absolute truth is never transformed, we think that it is transformed, which is an illusion. Shankaracharya does not believe in the transformation of the energy of the absolute truth, for he claims that everything is one and that the living entity is therefore also one with the Supreme. This is the Mayavada theory.
Okay, so Prabhupada is a simple example. A businessman, he is constructing new factories, opening new business. That is all a transformation of his energy. So he's using his money, he's getting people, laborers, he's doing all that. Does he get transformed? No, he doesn't get transformed. He remains as it is. All his energies are doing the work. So similarly, the Lord has multifarious energies, Parasa Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate, and his energies do all the job. The Lord remains as it is. The Lord continues enjoying in the spiritual worlds. But what is the Mayavad theory? So that is called Parinamvad. The energies get transformed, Parinam. But the Mayavad theory is the Lord himself gets transformed. So therefore, who are the living entities? The living entities are also transformation of the Supreme Brahman. Okay. So therefore, there is no difference between the Lord and the living entities. They're all one. So this is called as Vivartavad. But then Prabhupada says, with their tiny brains, they cannot understand such a simple thing. When a man is doing so much work, his energies are transformed. It does not mean that he gets transformed. So therefore, these are the fallacies of the Mayavad theory. And so some understanding of these facts must also be known. And of course, if you want more details, you can read this entire section of Prakash and Saraswati Sam Bhattacharya. You'll get more details. Thank you all very much. We'll continue tomorrow with the rest of the chapter. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.